We anticipate in the next 10 to 12 years approximately 86 million Hispanics coming into the United States and 41 million Asians. You have been the majority minority for 400 years in this country. You have been the number 2 population for 400 years. You're gonna get kicked out of being number 2, you're gonna go down and become number 4. Now, common sense, even a 3rd grade education would tell you, if you didn't get anything when you were number 2, you all jumped ahead of me, but anyway, you can guess what you're going to get when you become number 4.
President Biden, do you support reparations?
Well, I mean, since I haven't spoken on this, got a chance. Number one, the reason we're the country we are is because of immigration. We've been able to cherry pick the best from every single continent. The people who come here have determination, resilience. They are ready to stand up and work like the devil. We have 24 out of every 100 children in our school today is Hispanic. The idea that we are going to walk away and not provide every opportunity for them is not only stupid and immoral, but it's bad for America. They are the future of America.
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. And this is what we are faced with. And this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington, in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
We are owed $104 trillion on the very low end, plus $735 billion recurring. This number does not include the cost of about 50 Black Wall Streets that were decimated, nor compound interest from 2017 when Sean D. Rochester's book, The Black Tax, was published, nor the cost of Black life, nor the cost of living increases, nor the war on drugs, nor the current day pandemic. The number I'm working with is for slavery, Jim Crow, and accrued ongoing systemic racism, oppression, and disadvantage in the country our ancestors built with their lives.
And one thing only that African people care about, including me myself. I come to your country. I don't care where it is. I am here to make money. That's just the sad reality. But it is the reality. Me as myself, when I went to Nairobi, when I lived in Kenya, I went to take. When I went to South Africa, I went to take. When I went to Dubai, I went to take. I did not go to build the countries, because in my country where I come from, I am poor, and I left my country because there's nothing for me to do. I didn't see any ways of getting rich in my country, so I decided to come to other countries to do something for myself. So unfortunately, I can't tell my African American brothers and sisters that when African people come to America, expect them to build with you. No, we're here to take. We are here to take. The American government, like right now, it's welcoming immigrants like nobody's business. Every African person who is in a dire situation or who sees there's an opportunity for me to get a green card, they would do whatever it takes to come to America, knowing very well that the government right now is prioritizing foreigners instead of its own people, which is not my fault. My own business is to come there and grab whatever I can. And if your government is supporting me to take as much as I can, who am I to refuse? Who doesn't want to live in America? So don't be surprised when you see these African men or African women get with older men or older women just to get the green card. That is what we do because we are in a dire situation in our countries. So we are running away to come to your country so we can have a better life because, I mean, who does not know about the American dream? And then if we come and then Joe Biden pampers us, and forgets that he has Democrats to take care of, it's none of our business. That's the reality. That's the reality. When we come there, don't expect us to build America for who? You have a lot we are here to take. That's the truth. And I know I might sound arrogant, but I'm not a person who sugarcoats the truth. So when we come to your countries, just know we are not here to have mercy on you. We are here to take.
Good afternoon on the West Coast. Good afternoon in the mountain. Good afternoon in the central. Good afternoon on the East Coast. What's up, The Rock? I see you, fam. Thank you, Beth. And for those of you who are tuning in live on X, on Facebook, welcome to the live. I thought I would set it up properly to show you what we are up against as Black American Negro freedmen, descendants of the emancipated. Shout out to Phil from the African Diaspora channel. That's where I got that excerpt from. And I will probably find a way with the help of ETM Media to incorporate it in my introduction. Because we need a constant reminder as to what we are up against. We got work to do. We got work to do because Pan-Africanism is only being practiced by the descendants of the emancipated. Well, it was at one time. We, in our grown-up political way, have become educated to understand that we got to be on descendant of emancipated business because she doesn't just share the sentiment of the Africans. This is the Latino sentiment. This is the Asian sentiment. Ergo, my protest voter strategy. I've been educating you guys for about 5 years now. Finally shifted the vote to about 28% of our collective between Black men and women. The majority of Black men get it. 22% of them turned out the polls for Trump. 8% of our Black women. But did you hear this woman tell you the absolute truth about Pan-Africanism? They don't give a damn about us. Not one of these groups who our ancestors fought and died to get them over here so that it would not just be only white immigrants, that we could give other melanated immigrants an opportunity in the country of our ancestors. This is the thanks we get. This is the thanks we get, and her sentiment is shared amongst all the immigrants, and you've got to treat them as the common enemy they are. This is how they're treating us. They are here to replace and erase us, and so my work continues until I can at least get half our people awakened to the fact that we all we got. And until you get that, we're going to stay losing. We're going to stay on the bottom after our ancestors built this country with their very lives. Hi, MD Williams. I see you. What's up, Sheena? Nice to see you guys. Thank you for being here. So, yes, I had to give you that reminder. This is the fight. I'm living this here in California and doing everything in my power to prevent you guys from experiencing what we've experienced out here in California. Many of us can't even afford to relocate. That costs thousands of dollars, about $10,000 to $15,000 to do it right. But anywho, I digress. I don't want to tarry. I don't want to belabor. I want to bring back Miss Lisa Watson because we got more to talk about, and we only had a brief time last week. I hope your Thanksgiving was extraordinary, your day of giving thanks. That's the way I term it. I had a beautiful time, and I'm just glad to be back with you guys. Now, I am trying to plan to go at least on Saturdays and Sundays after football season, okay? Because I work for those big, huge games, and, it takes up my Sundays. But as soon as that season fades out, I'm going to try to come to you twice on Saturdays and Sundays until I don't know that I'll ever get back to the evenings during the week, but we shall see. At least I can try to come to you twice. Hi, Queen Yasmin. I see you, fam. Thank you for joining the live. But yeah, I'm going to do my best to come twice because I've got these amazing guests. Arthur Ward is coming here next Saturday to talk about AIPAC. We're talking abortion. We're talking about the Black church undermining us. We've got a lot to discuss, but I'm not going to tarry. I'm going to bring Miss Lisa Watson up of Watson Speaking so that we can finish. Well, I don't know that we'll ever really finish because she'll be back again. But this is part 2 of what we started last Saturday, dealing with our babies being left behind in this diabolical public school education system. And I've been able to set aside some questions for her from last week so that we can get her response this week. Okay, so stand by. Let me bring her right on up.
Hey, Angela.
Hi,
hey, audience.
Thank you so much for being here with us again. We're super excited to have you back.
Still want to keep saying congratulations on that win that you put up on election night.
Yes. Thank you so much. It was 5 years in the making. And, what I learned is that you've got to patiently persist in politics when you're trying to turn around, when you're trying to turn the Titanic around. Our people are some of the hardest to reach. But once the light bulb turns on, as we continue to educate them, then we get some favor and some buy-in, and they actually give up their couches to get to these polls. Speaking of couches, family, I am opposed to voting for the couch. We don't have time to tarry because you still got local elections that are impacting you more so than the national.
Correct.
So you need to get your booty to the polls.
Yes, and because of the vote couch, I really believe you got double the people that just didn't participate in the election. I believe you really got double the Black men and double the Black women. We should be able to get that 50% by the end of the Trump's next term. We will be, I believe, at 50%. We got to keep hammering the way we are now, but I really believe the 50% is within reach. Get the people off of the couch, have heavy voter registration, vote school choice. I'm a single issue voter now. Vote school choice. School choice is the barometer to tell you how people really feel about the country. If you're willing to let a child sit in a failing school, that tells me everything you need to know. I really don't care what color the child is. I want everybody to learn how to read and write. That's fundamental to the survival of the nation. So we are in the fire regarding education. So we have to have some unique strategies for us. So the video that you showed that opened up, that was eye-opening. I mean, even if you know that that's human nature, to hear someone sit there and articulate piece by piece that they can see, compared to them, we live in a mansion. And she thinks that we've just said our mansion is wide open. Come in, you can have the television, you can take all the food. Actually, you can just live in the mansion for free. You can come in, you can have any of the resources. You can take the fruit off the trees. You can just bring your bulldozer, uproot the trees, take them wherever you want, start a business and start selling the fruit. So this is what we have done. We now have to pay the price of our own sleepwalking through life, and it's going to be hard. We need a strategy, because what she was talking about was a blueprint, a strategy. They are strategically saying we are going to get there and we are going to be all about ourselves. And it's human nature. Imagine there was a huge swimming pool filled with children. All the children are drowning. Your child is way at the other end of the pool. You would jump in the pool and you would swim past 10 other people's kids to get to your kid. That's human nature. That's what they're doing. They're like, we're not here to help you. We're here to swim past all of your kids, swim past you and get to our kids so our kids can have a better life. Now we got to get the same, I call it Terminator determination. Remember the Terminator? Oh my gosh. Every time you can't, he won't even give you 5 minutes break. No, he's just going to keep coming and keep coming and keep coming. And it said, he doesn't feel pity. He doesn't feel remorse. He's not going to stop until you are dead. That's what we have to act like. The Terminator is after us and we cannot rest. We have got to look at the landscape. What resources do we have? People are coming here. They're used to less resources than we have. So we have to look at the landscape. And as I said, I think I've posted this a couple of times online. We have the Divine Nine. Outside of the white community, there is no other ethnic group. Do you know about the Hispanic Divine Nine? No. Do the Asians have a Divine Nine? No. These people have been the highest level benefactor of the experience for Black people in America. What are they doing to be advocates for the least among us? Nothing. Nothing. Very little. It's very, very little. They are exercising the talented 10th mentality.
Yes, they are.
You and I have both confessed that we had the same mentality. So now, to whom much is given, much is required. That's why you're required to grind it out like this and you feel this pressure. That's spiritual because the Lord knows you were coasting along, not paying attention to what was going on to the worst among us. I was doing the same thing. People in my own family were suffering under some of these policies, but I felt like I really wasn't. So it wasn't penetrating. Now I have this constant mental stress to say, well, you got to overcome. You got to do more now.
Absolutely. Well, I do have to stand a little corrected. I've been in this fight since I was knee high to a gatepost.
Well, praise God.
Because, it was because of my father. My father was a Pan-African Panther.
Okay.
My mom, we grew up down the street from the projects. We were in one of the first affordable housing programs in my community in Ohio. And my mom gave away so many of my baby sister's underpants that we looked up one day and she had no more. My mom fed the community. Like this was just nature because Black folks took care of Black folks. Black folks, it was a village. And so I grew up that way. So it's born in me to give a damn about my people. But naturally, when you're going through college, you're thinking, if we each focused on being a credit to our lineage, then the lineage will be lifted up. And so I did all the right things, went to school, got my degree in finance, attended an HBCU, finished at a private PWI in the Bay, got a degree in finance, and got to work. I mean, I've been working since 15 years old. I think I shared with you, actually 13, as a part of the Upward Bound program, where we went and worked during the summer and had summer training on college campuses. My first job was with a radio station. My second job, I was actually the creative arts director. I wrote a play, I cast it, and I produced it. So that's what they paid me to do at 14 years old. And then at 15, I was working in business, the insurance benefits division for General Motors, because I went to a vocational high school where we went to school 2 weeks and then we went to work 2 weeks for 11 months out the year. And this was a beautiful setup where your freshman year, you got to choose between about 5 different majors before you went on to sophomore year. And then at that time, you would declare a major. What did you like of the 5 you sampled as a freshman? And I chose business. And that's when I got my first job with General Motors at 15 years old in the insurance benefits division. And you could go into nursing, you could go into auto mechanics, you could go into building, you could go into cosmetology. Like, there were so many different majors. And what ended up happening was you could choose the college prep path, which is what I chose, or if the employers loved you after working with you from your sophomore through your graduation of senior year, you could just go right into the workplace. That's how many people in my Gen X were able to buy homes in my hometown. They were able to start families, marry, have children, because it was designed for us in that way.
But don't you have to wonder, because what you're describing is what I hear. I heard from my mom's generation. She did the same similar thing, and she went into nursing. Other people went into education. This became the Black middle class. You pointed that out. It was the benefit of not politics. It was the benefit of education policy. The education policy was logical. There's nothing you said that wasn't logical. You benefited. You got a skill set at an early age. The business obviously benefited because they got to, one, get a relationship with people, their employees early on, and then you can get like a real commitment. People used to have a real commitment to the companies that they worked for. Obviously, the economy benefited. The chances of you, when you know at such an early age what your future looks like, the chances of you really going off the rails goes down. You already said the economy benefited because those people began to be able to have a good job. They began to be able to buy homes, and others that you are really prepared and more mature to be able to go to college if that was your path. So that was a win-win-win-win. When I hear those stories, and then I have to think, at one point, some people got into a room and they decided to stop doing that thing. Why would they decide to stop doing the thing that was working? That's the agenda that we're up against. Now, for 50 years, they took that out of the school system, and now we're paying that heavy price. And that, to me, is where I say we just need to leave. I'm not a reformer. I call myself an abolitionist. I want to abolish failing government schools, and I think they're all failing. So I'm an abolitionist, just like Harriet Tubman, and I want us to exit the government schools and build our own model. The one size fits all is dead. And that's what they moved to. One size fits all. If your kid can't get it, you're not going to get very much customization. It's just flat. And it doesn't make any sense in the 21st century. But again, I want people to tell me, the people that defend the government schools, why would they change what you were doing? Who was that not benefiting? It was obviously cheaper than it is now. We have school districts that are actually paying $25,000 a year average for Chicago, for New York, for Baltimore, $25,000 a year. And what are they producing? They're not producing what they were producing with you
at all. But let me go back. When you say 25,000, isn't that per student?
Yes, per student. $25,000 per student in districts like Chicago, Baltimore, New York City. And there's other ones, probably in Los Angeles.
And they are illiterate.
Right.
They can't read, write, nor do math.
Correct.
My daughter literally had to teach herself how to write in cursive because they've taken cursive writing out of the schools.
Exactly.
Something that was standard for me from kindergarten.
Right.
I had to learn to print and to write. That's what they call writing. Cursive was writing. And so, this is about our economic genocide.
Correct. So we can't continue to be a partner. And that's one of my issues that I have with Black people, because the scripture is clear when it says agreement. Again and again and again, you're required to come into agreement. There's power in agreement. So when we look through our history in these last 60 years, we kept coming into agreement with the thing that was harming us. And then as it got worse, because we didn't have an 83% Black illiteracy rate when you were in 4th grade. So obviously, it went down, down, down. There's a guy that I watched, he produced a video and said in his state, and I believe it was Wisconsin, the Black literacy rate for elementary school kids is the exact same as it was in 1865 when we came out of slavery. Exact same illiteracy rate. So it's like we are literally going back to 1865. Remember in 1865, before then, if you were in the southern states, you weren't even allowed to get married. Well, that's the state of our marriage right now anyway. You weren't allowed to learn how to read and write. Over 100 years of anti-literacy laws. Now, they don't have any anti-literacy laws, but we still can't read and write. Didn't have Black businesses. So how are we having to start all over again like we are the pioneers of the Black community when we have all of this abundance around us and other people from other countries are willing to get on a boat, not even a real boat. They're willing to get on a door, float 90 miles through shark-infested waters to get from, say, Cuba to Miami. And here we are already here.
Well,
And
that's because our government seeks to erase and replace us with them. And we can't go anywhere in the world and get set up with hotel living, luxury hotels. You got EBT cards for food that are in the thousands with a cash component in the thousands. You've got free education. You get free driver license, even though you don't know how to drive. Our government is giving away our reparations, 100 going north, to make them more American in order to ethnocide us. Oh, shoot. Hold on one second. Keep talking, sis. I've got to plug up. Hold on.
Okay, so now I'm speaking to the audience. So I want to talk about some of the statistics and why my issue is school choice. Basically, let me define what school choice means. In some states right now, and I'm going to use Florida as the example because they are the gold standard for school choice right now. In Florida, they look at school choice and K through 12 education more like a Section 8 voucher. So everybody knows that on a Section 8 voucher, you're going to get a coupon. It's going to have a value attached to it. And you're going to be able to go into the marketplace and shop with that voucher. Now, if you find an apartment that's $1,000 a month and your voucher is $1,000 a month, then you don't pay anything. If the apartment is $1,200 a month and your voucher is $1,000, you're going to have to come up with that $200 difference. Well, that's how some states are now starting to look at K through 12 education. They're just going to put the power in the hands of the parents. And then the parents, if you want to, you can keep going to the school where your kid goes right now. You're always going to have that place if you want to go to the government schools. But if you want, you can just go to the little Catholic school and say, here, I have this voucher. And if they'll accept your child, if they have a place, then you go there. But the power is really in the ability to be able to take those vouchers and pool those vouchers. So let's just say you had 20 or 30 Black families and they all have those vouchers. They can use that money to build their own school. That's the type of foresight that I'm asking us to have, where I'm saying private school can be our 40 acres and a mule. Because you put up a quote from Barack Obama in your intro where he said providing good schools is reparation. Well, no, I don't agree with that. But I do agree that owning our schools can be a type of reparations because it's going to be a recurring payment. And you talked about that we are owed recurring payments. The schools are going to have to be paid every year. So this is a forever reparations plan. So I'm hoping that we can get people across the political spectrum, whether you're MAGA, you're independent, you are Green Party, or you're a Democrat. We can all come into agreement that the school choice is the civil rights issue of the 21st century. Does that make any sense? Do you have any questions that came up? Because I want to answer some of the questions. Okay, I think she may be having some technical difficulties, so I'm going to keep talking while Angela gets her technical difficulties resolved. So I want to give you some of the statistics. One statistic comes out of Chicago, and I think I mentioned this last week. 55 schools in Chicago, K through 12, 55 schools have zero students, zero Black students on grade level for reading or math. 55 schools. You know they are predominantly Black. Let's go over to Baltimore. In Baltimore, they have 23 schools, whole schools, that have zero students on grade level for reading or math. Zero. The best numbers for the Black fourth graders right now is 83% of Black fourth graders are not proficient in reading or math. So how are you going to go to college if you are graduating and you're not proficient in reading or math? How are you going to start your own business? How are you going to be, what women call marriage material if you are illiterate? It's not going to work. So we are going to continue to be in this cycle of welfare and dependency because of the failing schools. So, Angela, I hope they could hear me the whole time. I just was reviewing.
I pray that they could. I'm having some real challenges that I've got to work out with Spectrum, and it's out of control. Forgive me. I'm so grateful that you kept going.
So I'm making the case why school choice is the Black choice. That's the case that I am making to the Black community, that we're looking at the statistics. They are overwhelming evidence. It's not even a debate anymore. If you're looking at 83% of Black fourth graders that are illiterate in reading and math, it's not a debate anymore. We should just put the pen at the end of the period at the end of the sentence. This not working for us. Then I always like to pivot because I think I make at least 5 points in my argument. I'm like going to court. I feel like I got a jury in front of me. I'm making the case for a case against the government schools. The complaint, when you go to court, there's a complaint that is filed and they read an indictment in that complaint. And when I read the indictment, I have Black voices ringing in my ears and we have complaints. And one of the complaint is, why are kids not getting trade skills? You touched on that. That's a common complaint. I'm not making that up. Another complaint is, I just touched on, we are getting regular reading and math literacy. But we always hear, why are we not getting financial literacy? So we're reading about powernomics from Dr. Claude Anderson, who you highlight, who I said I had only heard about maybe 5 years ago. And he is heavily going into this powernomics and this group economics, right? Not social programs, economics, okay? We're not getting small business literacy. One of my aunts, she's actually a trainer. She runs a boot camp where she teaches Black people in particular how to launch a business using business and financial principles. We're not getting group economics. That's what powernomics is about, group economics. We're not getting, this is a newer one, but I put it on the list. We're not getting information on mental health skills. This is a skill set that you have to manage. By the time you are a child, you should start learning how to master your own mental health. You should not be required to go to some therapist. Everything they try and give the Black community is something that's going to transfer our money from our hands to somebody else's hands, to the mental health industrial complex. People should be able to teach children, how do you do relationship skills? How do you do conflict resolution? When you have a community that has so much crime, a lot of it is emotional based crime. But if we were taught as children, how do we manage mental health? Another good one that I love is about the obesity epidemic. And meanwhile, all of our grandmothers had gardens. I know my grandmother always had a garden. I know she said you always got to learn you got to know how to grow your own food. Meanwhile, we're not teaching people how to do urban gardening. And I didn't even touch upon like our spiritual well-being. And that was what got us through the worst times in America, is because we had a very strong spiritual grounding in America. We were, like some people said, we were like the moral voice of America. And I can see that being true. I can see that being true. And I didn't even touch upon that. So meanwhile, that's the complaint that I'm reading in the court to the jury, if the Black community is the jury. And I'm going to be able to go through each one of those issues and be able to show you the evidence of the trade skills, how they took that out. And now Black people that used to be the mechanics, we used to be able to build homes. Obviously, we used to know how to do agriculture. You can't be the slave at class during an agricultural economy and say you didn't know how to do agriculture. We used to know how to do construction. You didn't have to hire someone. If you were a married Black woman in America, you wait till your husband got home and told him, and he could do the light plumbing. But now we got to hire that out. He used to be able to do the light electrical, and now you got to hire that out. He used to be able to go down there and work on the furnace, and now you got to hire that out. How come now we don't know how to do anything when we used to know how to do it? Everybody's grandpa knew how to do it. They knew how to do carpentry, at least the basics, but they took the trades out. Now the trades are making 6 figures. So now when we used to know how to do it, you weren't getting rich. Now that we don't know how to do it, everybody that's doing it is getting rich.
Absolutely.
The
Same is true for home economics.
Exactly. Bingo. Now you can be Martha Stewart and become a billionaire. She's not doing anything that everybody's grandma didn't used to do. So all of these indictments that we can have and we can lay out evidence for, how does the jury come back and say we need to continue in the model that we're in right now? That doesn't make any sense. Then I move to another part of the indictment, and I call that our history. I'll just touch upon three little pieces of our history. One of them I start with is the anti-literacy laws that started in 1734 and went to like 1840, 100 years of legal codified laws saying you can't learn how to read and write. You can't teach Black people or the slaves or the children of the slaves how to read and write. And now we're at the exact same level. This is not, no one can dispute that. I can pull up the actual laws from each state and show it to you. This is what the law said. This was the punishment. And now I can pull up the data to show you how are we at the exact same situation that we are. And now how can you tell me that the government schools are working for us? History. I can tell you that the first HBCU was founded in 1837. Slavery didn't end until 1865. So almost 30 years before slavery ended, we already built colleges. Now we're up to 106. At a certain point, now this is during our parents' generation, 50% of the doctors, lawyers, engineers in this country, almost 50% of them were coming just out of Tuskegee. That's the power that Booker T. Washington, that's the gas that he had in that tank. 60 to 70% of all college graduates, Black in America, were coming out of the HBCUs. So that means we already have a history of building colleges. So why wouldn't we say, oh, I guess we can't build kindergartens, but we can build colleges? The logic is just mind-boggling. Okay, so we have the HBCU history. We have what's going on right now with the lack of literacy, and we have the anti-literacy laws. Another issue, Booker T. Washington. Everybody knows Booker T. Washington built Tuskegee. If you read his book, he literally built it. When he got there, they only had one little building. He literally had carpentry schools to teach the carpentry students how to build the other building. So they literally built it with their own hands. But what most people don't know is Booker T. Washington also built one-room schoolhouses, the elementary schools. Elementary school used to go to 8th grade. So K through 8th grade. He also built K through 8th grade schools. He built over 5,000 of them. They were called Rosenwald schools because he got money from one of the executives at Sears and Roebuck, who read Booker T. Washington's book and wanted to invest in what he was doing. So to get someone to finance the building of 5,000 K through 12 schools. So we already have a history of building K through 12 schools. We already have a history of building colleges and universities. And we already see that the country has no problem with Black people being illiterate. Now, I want to say people are different than from the 1800s, but it doesn't matter. We still need to build our own schools because, one, we need to get the money. So even if the government schools were doing a great job, why wouldn't we want to get the money and do a great job? That doesn't make any sense. So I'm like, not only are your kids are drowning right now. What's the one of the frames for the show? Tyrone can't read because Jose can't speak English. So even if the schools were trying to do a great job, everybody knows a teacher. Put her in front of 26-year-olds. 4 of them don't speak English. How well do you think your child's going to do? Oh, yeah. Okay, Mackie, what's up? Okay, Michael Pan. Don't forget that Jose gets free public higher education through in-state tuition. Exactly. Let's talk about that. That's called the Dreamers and the DACA. That's something that Barack Obama instituted. He didn't institute anything for you when your child was getting an 83% illiteracy rate. He didn't come and say, let me do something special, because Barack Obama went on the record. He said he didn't support reparations. Now, remember, he's a constitutional lawyer. He's not your run-of-the-mill lawyer like the other people. Most of the lawyers that are running the government, they're not constitutional lawyers. They're just any old regular lawyer. They might have been doing traffic tickets before they went into the government. But he's a constitutional lawyer, and he came out and said that. But what he didn't do is he didn't go and look and say, how can I craft 21st century reparations? Because I'm not a constitutional lawyer, but I was with the ACLU for almost a decade. So I'm exposed to constitutional arguments all the time. And so when I went and looked at the reparations, the original plan, it did have flaws in it. One, it was just written for 1865. But I said, well, what can we do that we can call 21st century reparations? Now, he came up with plans for other groups. So he could have just said, let me white out what I just did for Hispanics and put Black people on it, because he had a unique executive order. And I don't know if people saw this. Barack Obama had an executive order for Hispanic education. Did you know that?
No.
Oh, I
know that he established the Office of New Americas.
Right.
While Newsom has denied our bills on the floor of the Senate here in California for us to establish an Office of Freedmen's Affairs.
Yeah, they're not going to do that. I've had this conversation with the reparations people quite a few times, and I'm like, this is just I call reparations theater. That's what they're engaged in, because the theater is political theater. It's theater. It's been very successful for 60 years with Democrats and the Black community. So they're not going to give it up easy. It's up for us to say, wait a minute. You know how I always say, see the wizard? See the wizard.
Which I love and I borrow.
And we all know about that Wizard of Oz. Now, she got fooled and she went through all of these trials and tribulations until they saw that wizard behind that curtain and said, wait a minute. Once you see the wizard, you can't unsee him.
Well, the beauty of it is we've managed to weaponize reparations to shift 28% of our electorate
praise God.
towards Trump and deportation and closed borders, because we're starting to see the wizard.
Right.
It only took 5 years. That's why that's the only reason why I came back, because I realized that my contribution to that protest voter strategy had some impact. It wasn't me alone, of course. There was you. There was Chicago Red. There's so many of us that the light has turned on for that were instrumental in swinging the vote 28%. Now we're going for half of our electorate, because we've got to become like the other groups. The other groups never have given all of their loyalty to all Republican or all Democrat. They're split down the middle.
Right.
And so that's called a way for you to bargain and get things done for your people. You can't just give it to ungrateful demon rats who take your vote for granted. I mean, look at the crap they did during Kamala's campaign, bringing out Meg Thee Stallion, the illiterate Cardi B, Barack Obama wagging his finger at us and trying to get us in line when Black men have, by and large, even still this last election, predominantly voted for the demon rats. You know, Michelle Obama talking down, Oprah talking slick. Oprah got paid $2.5 million.
Right.
Of this $1.5 billion that they blew, and she's still $20 million in the hole. Shirley Huszar fought the good fight also. Yes, let's put her up there. Shout out to Shirley Huszar. She was the reason why I was able to open my third eye, which is my first eye, to actually understand that Trump was the lesser of two evils. She was a sister that brought me, to show me my conservative self and to get me on my protest voter strategy. She was, this is the late Shirley Huszar, Urban Game Changers. For those of you who don't know who Shirley Huszar is, you must look up Urban Game Changers. She's all over YouTube in memorial. So, she was the one to really help me to see the error of my ways. But yes, you're absolutely right. Shirley, shout out to Shirley in heaven. But I do want to ask you this from the last time, and we're going to continue what you've got to say, but I want to weave in a couple of the questions. This person said last Saturday, Watson has failed to explain the travesty of Louisiana. The issue is school vouchers as they are now is not viable for Black Americans. Oh, it cut off. Okay. Yeah, as it stands now, I really don't understand what they mean.
Okay, I do. I think I do. So I hope I can do some justice to it.
Okay.
After Hurricane Katrina, remember we had our city that was virtually wiped out. So they decided, okay, we're going to try and start from scratch. And we're going to go and give out school vouchers. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? So they built a lot of charter schools, which I compare charter schools to, one of my friends, he's European, and we were ordering a Coca-Cola, and then he ordered something. He said Coke Light, and I said, "Oh, what is that?" It basically was Diet Coke. So I call the government schools Coke, and then I call the charter schools Diet Coke. They are still underneath the government. Now, I am asking us to build private schools where we own the schools. So now, what if you go and you work for the department of whatever department in the United States government? Do you own that department? No, you still are underneath the restrictions of the government. If they have a union, you're still dealing with that. One of the big pieces that came out of COVID was, remember, the private schools didn't have to close. Why not? Why didn't they have to close? Because they could do whatever they wanted to do.
Because they're private.
They're private.
Not public.
Dr. Claude Anderson, one of the little side notes he made one time was he said, America's like a big Monopoly game. Exactly. We're a monopoly game. A monopoly game is based on free market principles. The closer you get to socialism, the more problems you have. So if you are wanting to be underneath welfare, now you got to go under welfare rules, okay? Government rules, okay? So the charter schools are under government rules. Number two, when the people came to me and they asked me about what did I think about New Orleans, what did I think about the New Orleans situation, the first thing I always say is, was it worse than it was before? No. It wasn't worse than it was before. So then why are you screaming about this, but you weren't screaming about the other one? We got to stop doing that. We got to stop accepting the crap when it comes from, let's just say, the white supremacy. But then when Black people start trying to do it, all of a sudden we're being held to this perfect standard. We're going to be digging out of this for a while, so it's not going to be perfect, but we're moving towards a more perfect situation. So one, New Orleans and Louisiana, they went under a lot of charter schools, which were still government schools with government rules. I'm asking us to look at a blueprint where we activate our 85,000 churches that sit empty 90% of the time. I think I started talking about resources that we have that other people don't have. I said we have the Divine Nine. The other people don't have a Divine Nine. We have 85,000 churches in an infrastructure that's sitting empty. What if you had a car sitting in your garage and you only used it once a week? Well, if you started using it every day, you would be able to get more things done. We have 106 HBCUs. No other ethnic group in America has a network of colleges. They're not perfect. They've been going a little off the rails, but we still have this infrastructure that we could be structuring to work better for us. We have.
Let me ask you. I thought Hispanics, the Latinos, have more colleges and universities than we do right now. Don't they have like 500?
No. What schools do they have?
Hold on. Hispanic, how many? I'm Googling.
Okay. Well, you're doing that. I'm going to say we have 35,000 Black millionaires. 35,000. And we have 7 Black billionaires. So that's a lot of resources that are just going untapped.
Listen to this. I'm sorry, don't lose your thought. There are nearly 1,000 Hispanic serving institutions in the U.S. These institutions are public or private nonprofit schools that grant degrees and have at least 25% of their undergraduate students are Hispanic or Latino. I guess that's a little different than what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you're talking about there. Like,
yeah, that is Hispanic serving. They call them HSIs, basically where Hispanics can go. Keep going. I'm looking for just the ones that are founded by them. Go ahead.
So I just want to say we have resources that are largely going untapped and they need to be restructured into an economy. So I'm going to go back to Dr. Claude Anderson, because when I was listening to him, my eyes just went really open and I had a lot of light bulb moments. Like, okay, we can get ourselves out of this situation if we go and look at the what tools do you have on the table? And one of the things I talked about last week, I'm going to talk about it every time, is that concept he had called bouncing money. So I hope the listeners are familiar, but if they're not, he made this interesting correlation to the ethnic groups who bounce money the most within their own community is correlated to wealth. So he said Jewish people bounce their money the most of any ethnic group. He said they bounce their money 18 times. I sort of understood that because I actually go to a Messianic church, and I know that there's a lot of like legal religious rules that they have that require them pretty much to do business. If you need kosher food, you're probably going to have to go to a Jewish food source. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So, right. If they send their kid to Hebrew school, who's going to teach? They're going to have the Hebrew teachers. If they send their kid, they're going to need Jewish teachers to work in the Jewish schools. So they're automatically going to have to bounce the money within their own community. So that made sense. I believe the next group was Asians that bounced money the next highest number. And that might have been like 13. I'll get the specific numbers next time. Then whites, then Hispanics. Then he said that Black community bounces their money 0 times, not even once. So as soon as a Black person gets their paycheck, the money automatically leaves the community. So that just told me, okay, whatever you're talking about, whatever you're thinking about building or making a policy, you should layer that bouncing on top of that policy. Make sure your policy is addressing this bouncing issue. If some money is coming into the Black community, so I gave the example of the school choice voucher. So if Angela got the voucher and then she went to a Black-owned K-12 school, that money just went to pay the teachers. That's going to be one bounce. That school has the capacity to now look at their contracts. Where are they getting their curriculum? They can order Black curriculum. So now that Black curriculum provider got the money bounced to him. If there's uniforms, you can go to a Black-owned company to secure the uniforms. So now Black companies are going to start creating uniforms. We're going to start building businesses around the K-12 economy. You're going to say, who's going to provide the food? Are you going to order in that same food that they're ordering in for the government schools right now? Or can you say, we're going to start our own little urban garden right here on our church. We're going to teach the kids, that's going to be a part of their curriculum, to learn how to grow the food. And then we can bring in Black businesses to prepare the food, or the kids can prepare their own food, or people can bring a sack lunch, but it's still going to have more healthy provision than what they're providing right now. So if you need transportation, so why wouldn't Black companies start opening up little vans like Uber or Lyft? They can go around and pick up the kids every day. If you need tutoring after school or do our summer enrichment programs, then those can be Black providers. So we have one policy that can get us 6 to 8 bounces. So if we're going from 0 to 6 to 8 bounces, what's the downside? Why are people clinging to the failing government schools, where, as I said, I can make an indictment against them and they're going to get an F across the board? But whenever we start trying to pivot and say, well, we need to build something that we own. If we own it, we control it. So how much learning loss did Black kids get during COVID? While private school students didn't get any learning loss because they got to stay in schools. How many Black kids took the COVID shot under duress? They didn't want to take it. It wasn't my body, my choice anymore, because they were trapped in a government school. So even if we were talking about that New Orleans situation and they said, well, those schools didn't get any better. Yeah, but did they require the shot? But did they say that did they have any ability to bounce any money in the Black community? So it still would have been better for us to own our own schools. Let's just say we still had an 83% illiteracy rate, which would break my heart if we had Black-owned schools. We had an 83% illiteracy rate, but we still would be getting the other benefits. So there's no downside to this policy for the Black community? Are you still going to say, oh, none of the kids speak English, so the teachers can't even address, Tyrone's issue? Are you going to be able to have any customized education? Really is what people go to private school for. They want education that's going to be for what their family values are. So if your family value is that you're Muslim, you can send your kid to Muslim school. If your family value is that you're Jewish, you can send your kid to Jewish school. If your family value is that you're Christian, you should send your kids to Christian school. If your family value is, you know what, we love the arts, that's just something we love, then somebody is going to create a school that's going to cater to that customized type of curriculum. If they want trade schools, now you know good and well the Black community would benefit so much from a network of trade schools that are targeting males who want to do masculine things. They want to use a drill. They want to learn how you fix things. They want to work on cars. That's what they used to be able to get. So I just don't see the downside to us embracing this policy. And as I said, it should be Black liberals, Black independent, Black conservatives, Black Muslims. Every Black person should be getting on board with this policy. Okay.
I absolutely concur. I want to finish what the gentleman wrote in the chat, the part 2 to what you just spoke on with Louisiana. The issue is school vouchers as they are now is not viable for Black Americans.
Okay.
The school has the choice to say no to your kid. Where does that leave the children denied? The children denied are usually handicapped or on the spectrum. Change the system to parent choice. Is that school choice is synonymous with parent choice?
Yes, school choice is parent choice because you're getting the voucher. So as I said, we got to do the comparison. So I have people come to me. They tell me the government schools are fine. I think that's crazy. Then they say, well, what about the kids who are going to be left behind? Like he just said. Now, that doesn't make sense because you just told me that the government schools are fine. So wouldn't they just be stuck in the fine schools that you just told me were fine? They would be better because one of the number one critiques of the government schools is overcrowding. Have you heard that? The schools are overcrowded. So if I say, okay, I'm going to give out a voucher and 10% of the students leave, your school's less crowded, right? So you still will be getting a benefit. There's no downside. They're searching for a downside, but it just doesn't exist. The only people that are complaining are the unions because they get paid for every student. And that's their motivation, follow the money. But there's no downside for a parent. If my child is trapped in a failing school and the teacher says, I have 25 kids, I can't pay attention to your child, I just don't have the time. And my state passes school choice. And 5 of the kids out of my child's class leave. Now the teacher only has 20 kids. Isn't she less stressed than she was before? Isn't it more likely that my child's going to get a little bit more attention? So even though your child didn't leave, which you said the school was fine, so I don't know why you want to leave. But the people who don't like it, and that we're not a one-size-fits-all humanity. There's 50 million students in the government schools, so everybody's not going to be happy with this one product. If we went to a buffet, we don't expect to have one item on the buffet. We expect to have dozens and dozens and dozens of items on the buffet. So I just think school should be like a buffet. Let people go and eat what they want to eat. Now, if you don't like something on the buffet, don't eat it. Okay. I see a lot of questions. Michael, this guy, I need to bring him on my show.
Michael Pan is the truth. He's an ally.
Okay.
He's not us, but he's down for us. I do believe he's Asian, but he's a comrade, and he ally to the Negro freedman. The Negro freedman descendant of the emancipated is a friend of mine, and Michael is the truth. So I'll definitely put you two in touch with one another. He's very learned at many things concerning our plight in this country. One of our
I support anybody that supports school choice. So that's sort of like my yardstick. I'm like, you support school choice? Okay, we down. So it says,
Michael says, oh, go ahead.
The reparations perspective said that it's important to be strategic because your local and state issues matter more than federal government. And all of the school choice, 100% of school choice legislation is state level. It's not a federal level. Trump said he's going to get rid of the Department of Education, which again, ain't our friend. So if he's saying I'm going to give the funding that I was allocating through the Department of Education, I'm going to give it to the parents. So it's hard for me to hear people who are arguing for reparations who are saying they don't want this money that the government's trying to give them. What? Why?
Well, yes. Well, I love that response, but I also think Michael is referring to when I stated I don't want any more couch voters. We can't afford it. And I want to go back to that for a quick second before we proceed. I need you guys to understand that the demon rats will do whatever it takes to steal elections.
Right.
They've stolen 3 primaries and an election,
Right.
allegedly, and in my opinion.
Right.
Okay. What was happening out here in California should be a crime. You had Red winning up to 98% of the seats. And all of a sudden, at the 98%, it was flipping towards the demon rats.
Right.
I smell a rat because that's all they do is lie and steal and cheat. Now, let me help you understand. Out here, when you're dealing with these demon radically ran states, which we as descendants of the emancipated by and large populate, you're seeing the highest rates of crime, the highest rates of homelessness, the highest rates of unemployment, the highest rates of underemployment, the highest rates of evictions. And in these states, these governors, I'll speak for California because that is what I know. When I went to vote, they told me to put away my ID. So any immigrant could have shown up, said my name and my address that they pulled from a piece of mail that they have stolen or seen in the trash, and go to these polls and pretend to be me and vote. Now, if I'm on the couch and illegals are able to show up, no ID required in the whole entire state of California, and y'all on the couch, and folks know this because y'all done checked out, now folks are stealing addresses to go in there, no ID required. They don't have to look like me or nothing. All they have to do is give the woman who's given the little sheet to put in the machine, all they got to give her is my name and address.
And it's even worse, Angela, because I believe that the fraud is coming from the inside, not people who are just coming outside and saying, here's some random person's address. Think about it. Once the polls close, they know, oh, there was 1 million people that never showed up. We'll just all go and vote on behalf of those 1 million people. So that you're already registered. They already have all of your information. And what are the chances you're going to come and say, wait a minute, I didn't vote at all in that election. I voted couch. And all those vote couch people, I guarantee you a percentage of them, they did vote. They just don't know that they voted.
They just didn't physically go to vote.
Right.
And this is why I'm not for the couch. I'm not for mail-ins. I'm not for ballot boxes.
Me either.
They were burning the ballot boxes.
Right.
Okay. Burning people's votes in those boxes that are dropped off at different locations. Okay. And so you've got to show up when they open the polls. Out here, they open them about a week in advance of the actual 11/5. Okay. Super Tuesday, whatever. I went the very first day, but I showed up in person. You didn't have any lines. You didn't have the food with standing online for hours like that. We don't have that luxury. This country is no longer black and white where y'all could have, first of all, you could never afford to vote the couch and sit it out. I would venture to say it's the reason why we are bottom caste in the country of our ancestors. And my question to you is, if you allow them to continue stealing elections, where are you going and with what? These people are able to come here and, like Lisa said, they risk life and limb to get into this country because they're giving them. The woman at the top of the show that I showed you, she said, it's not my fault that Biden is giving me all of y'all stuff. Right. I'm going to come over here and take advantage of it.
Right.
So it's our government that is very complicit in our economic genocide because for a myriad of reasons, but one of the main ones is when they finish using our ancestors as the shoes to build the wealthiest country in the known world, They wanted to throw the shoes away to parts unknown in the world. Abe Lincoln wanted to ship us off to Liberia. As folks sit up here and celebrate him for us emancipating our damn selves, because that's what we did when we signed up to go to war to help this country defeat Europe. Okay? We signed up for our freedom in this way. Our ancestors gave their lives for us to be able to get emancipation. This is serious, family. So you have to understand that you don't have the luxury when you're talking 282 million immigrants with 50 million DACA and illegals on deck for citizenship, while the demon rats sell you on transgender, LGBTQ, and abortions, while allowing illegals to birth citizens the minute their foot touches American soil. You don't have the luxury to vote the couch. So as I move forward in these 4 years, I'm defeating demon rats. I'm defeating the couch. You have got to get up and vote locally, because what happens when you don't is that these immigrants are now running your government. You saw what happened in California when Newsom colluded with the California Black Legislative Caucus, which is not us, it's immigrants and whites. One white guy I saw on there, and told them, listen, if you allow those bills to get to the floor for reparations for a vote, I'm going to veto it.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to help me save face.
Right.
Because Kamala is running, and we need for her to have a snowball's chance in hell to get the descendants of the emancipated to vote for their own ethnocide with these illegals that we're pouring into the country to become our new voter base. Now, I'm paraphrasing, but that's what went down.
Now, how many years did they work on the California reparations plan? Because
listen to this. We had a $96 billion surplus when we started.
Oh, wow.
They sent us away for 2 years while they spent that surplus down to a $68 billion deficit on the pandemic and on illegals. That's what they were doing while we were away studying. You see, this is why I checked out. This is why y'all haven't seen me for 18 months. Because when I realized
liberals argued with me, Democrats, Black Democrats argued with me when I kept saying this is theater. I've been at these high-level meetings. They do not believe, they're not going to give Black people money. This is now the African lady that you started this out with. Nothing she said went against human nature, right? There's human nature involved. Whenever there's human nature involved, that dogs bite, okay? Because that's just their nature. So when you talk about our white people, especially the white saviors, do they wake up in the morning and say, you know what, we want to make Black people richer than we are? That's not human nature. Nobody wakes up wanting to make people richer than they are. Do you think that not half the Black women, but the 40% of Black women that are underneath the welfare umbrella, 40% of welfare is Black women, not 40% of America, but out of the people that are on welfare, 40% are Black women. Do you think their social workers get up and say, you know what, when Michelle comes in here, I really would like to give her $1 million check. She'll be richer than me. She doesn't feel that way. She doesn't want Michelle's kids to have more money than her kids. That's human nature. Nobody wakes up wanting their neighbor to be richer than they are. They don't even have to hate you. But I think they really don't like you, the people that are the social worker class. But no, that's why I brought up that Claudine movie. If you haven't seen that movie, Claudine, it's from the 1970s. It popped up in my YouTube feed one random day. And it was played by Diane Carroll and James Earl Jones. So it's two mega stars in this movie. And this woman that is trapped in the welfare industrial complex and what she has to go through. And she has a little white sassy Karen, before they had Karens, that literally comes inside of her house. This was crazy. that the welfare lady gets to come inside of your house, open up your closets, look in your refrigerator, looking around to see, do you have any evidence of a man being in the house? Do you think that lady was like, I really would like to see Claudine be rich? No, she doesn't want to see Claudine be rich. And right now, that little white lady, her children are social workers and they're the overseers. The social workers are the overseers, the same as they had on the plantation, that are overseer. The overseers do not want to see you free. They don't want to see you prosperous. The African lady who looks like us, she don't care if you get free or prosperous either, because she's all about herself. And the social workers do not want to see you free or prosperous. Nobody's coming to save us. We're going to have to look around and see what tools we have, and we're going to have to start trying to build our own boat, okay? Stop being on Gilligan's Island, and nobody can figure out how to get off this island. We're going to have to figure out how to get off this island.
Well, that's what I love about your solutions, because we need resolve right now. We don't have to wait until 20 no before we get active and get something going for our people, because if we don't do something right now, it's a wrap for the lineage. But back to what I was saying, I'm going to land. Basically, we were used to save Newsom from a recall and to be distracted so that he could use the surplus on the pandemic and on illegals. That's what happened. And so he's in. What happens when you don't show up to vote locally, when you're not running grassroots candidates, you get to have a legislative body comprised of anti-Black American Negro freedmen racists who, like Lisa said, don't ever want to see you up off the bottom, because capitalism requires a bottom caste. And this country has decided long ago, when they couldn't get rid of us as the shoes that built the country, that we were going to be it. And so we just went from slavery to Jim Crow to accrued ongoing systemic racism, oppression, and disadvantage. But now we've got a real opportunity. We've got one of the best opportunities we've had, I don't know, since I don't even know. The bottom line is Trump is real clear. He's the only president that's ever stated, and I got to find that speech. I heard P. Ray Easley speak about a speech.
I saw it.
Oh, you must share it with me so we can share it with my audience.
And Philip Scott just played it. He just was interviewing P. Ray. So I'll send you that.
Who?
Philip Scott on the.
I saw Phil Scott interview. That's the one where I learned from P. Ray that she said she went to it wasn't a debate. This was back when Trump was running. I guess he was already president because Ben Carson was the leader of HUD. Yes. And she talked about going to hear Trump speak so that she could meet. Well, she was talking about how much the Republicans were disparaging us. And she had to pretty much push past, her disdain for whatever anti-Black rhetoric was running around the streets to go and meet Ben Carson because of the diabolical things that had happened to them in housing in Chicago. And when she went, she met Ben. He helped her with some issues in terms of housing in Chicago. And she said that Trump gave the best speech she had ever heard in favor of the Black American.
Yes.
And I want to hear that speech. So Lisa, please send it to me, because I not only want to hear it, I want to play it for you here and have Lisa back to help unpack it. But the bottom line is he's the only president that's ever given us credit for building the country, even though he kind of quasi did it. He didn't do it straight up, no chaser. But that's neither here nor there. I've never heard anyone from the Demon Rat side ever give us credit, not even for swinging the vote for Trump. Right now, they're trying to make you believe that it's, not commonplace for the Hispanic vote, the Latino vote to be split down the middle. That's commonplace. In other words, what his Latino men did was not that big a deal. It's no real different than what they customarily do. They weaponize their vote. And so they're never going to be all in for Demon Rats the way we are as a collective.
And I had this conversation before with Black people. So I'm always trying to come up with some framework that's going to make sense. So just imagine you work for a company and you're trying to negotiate your benefits. So they go in and out with new CEOs every 4 years, like we do with a president. There's always a new CEO. What Black people are basically doing when we go all in on one party is we're saying, well, whenever the Democrats are running the company, we'll sit down and we'll negotiate some benefits. We don't really get them, but we'll engage. And now, whenever the Republicans are in, we'll just stay in our home. We won't even negotiate. So you don't even know what the conversation is about. You don't even know what you could have gotten because you just decided to not even be engaged. So Hispanics are saying, well, when the Democrats are in, we'll negotiate for things that we know they agree with us on. And when the Republicans are in, we'll negotiate with them on the things that we know that obviously that person is going to do better in the company because their face is constantly being shown. And they're like, we will work with this company no matter who's in charge. Now, how do you think that the people are going to feel about you if you say, well, I'm not going to work with this boss? Okay.
Isn't that what the CBC did to Trump?
Yes.
And isn't that what they're threatening to do right now? And aren't they due in large part comprised of melanated immigrants?
Yes.
This is what happens when you don't show up locally.
Exactly.
This is what happens when you don't go vote. And so they're running the CBC. They're telling you, they look like you, but they're telling you to get over slavery, to get over the fact that your reparations was given to the white flight out of Europe in the form of a Homestead Act. You're supposed to forget all about that and just move on and continue to pick yourself up by your bootless straps, all the while telling you they're not going to sit down at the table with Trump.
Right. They're putting ourselves in a lose-lose situation.
That's what they're doing, undermining us. And that's why we have to go around them and get to the table irrespective.
Yes, we have to be at the table. I'm saying we got to own the table. So people are telling you.
If you're not at the table, you are on the menu.
Exactly.
So let's keep it a buck. You're not at that table, you are on the menu. And that's what's been happening to us because y'all want to check out and take the politically lazy route of voting the couch. And if that worked, why are we on the bottom? If voting the couch worked as much as y'all do it, because this ain't new. Okay, this is not a new thing. We've been voting the couch. 40% of us have checked out only up until Obama.
Right.
And where are we in every metric of society when 40% of our electorate sits it out?
Right.
Okay, because even Asians got to the polls in record numbers this time around.
I want to talk about how we are going to translate our needs. Okay.
Let me finish. Don't lose your thought. Okay. Michael, Queen Yasmin says true, but keep in mind, federal is the real goal. Don't undermine the federal trying to get local and state. Okay, you've got a point. Federal reparations in terms of cash, you got a point. I want you guys to learn from California because the problem I see is all these local and state efforts cropping up when California, the most liberal in the union, okay, the most liberal of states, y'all saw what happened to us out here, where Newsom derailed those efforts, working hand in hand with the California Black Legislative Caucus to make sure the bills didn't even make it to the floor. That was for an agency. And we were trying to give property back akin to Bruce's Beach. Those were two parts of, I think, about 12 recommendations that they had for reparations. They were trying to get it in other ways since Newsom came out the gate. The ink had not dried on our 11-page manuscript of harms before he was sending dog whistles to the legislature through Fox News that he does not believe in cash. So they were trying other ways to get the land restored and to get an agency to manage whatever was going to come of it. And understand that the Pan-Africanists are in the way in undermining us too. Out here, they had earmarked a measly $12 million for the Office of Freedmen's Affairs that never made it to the floor for a vote. And it's these Pan-African organizations that want half of that for racism, because they were upset that we fought and won for lineage-based reparations out here. They wanted race-based reparations because they are of the mind that if we can't get it, y'all not gonna get it. And we gonna stand in the way as they have been for years. They've been the ones that have been in charge of this thing with the late, what's her name? That one chick out of Texas, the late
Barbara Jordan?
No, not Barbara Jordan. She used to wear that big old braid.
Sheila
Jackson Lee. She's immigrant. And she's been over it since the gentleman who originated, what's the number on that bill? Conyers. Conyers gave it to her, and this stuff sat on the shelf collecting dust until the former ADOS movement got activated, and we got out here in these streets to make it relevant, make that bill relevant to get it back. And all they did, like Lisa states, is grift off of it. That's all they were intending to do, was to line their own pockets, to study it into perpetuity, and at the end tell you, after they've exhausted and drained the government, there's nothing to see here. So know that you've got no friends. We've all we got, and we've got to come up with a way to get immediate relief. And I like what Lisa is sharing about that. So I wouldn't advise you wasting your time the way we did for 2 years for them to tell you no, because that's exactly what's going to happen. I've already been there, done that, got the T-shirt and the bumper sticker. Go ahead, Lisa.
Yes. I mean, as I said, I have been in the rooms with high-level leftists, and they have a value system, and their tools with the Black community is just leverage. That's all they're trying to do is leverage. Now they've been exposed. California, the only thing you guys got out of that is exposure. If you can't pass something in super majority Democrat California, it's not going. What are the chances it's going to get passed in South Dakota? If you can't pass it in a super majority Democrat? The Republicans have never said in the decades that I've been alive that they support this. So you can't even go to the people who are telling you to your face, oh, we don't even believe in this. So you got to go to the people who have been stringing you along, and you've just been getting strung along. Now,
that's
normally,
all they doing.
What pisses me off is a woman gets mad when they find out that a man been stringing them along. They get blazing mad and start acting like the Color Purple, and what is that other movie where she burned up the man's car?
Yeah, that was was it not
Waiting to Exhale?
Was
Waiting to Exhale. So
okay.
Why are we not getting like Waiting to Exhale when we find out these people have just been stringing us along, and they got side chicks? They ain't even hiding their side chicks. They side chicks is out in front, and the side chicks is going into your face saying you're not gonna get anything, and he's leaving you and he's coming to me. But they still clinging to the lie. Okay, it's theater. It's not going to happen. We have to go and structure a new product for this century. Trump is the art of the deal. Okay, and he wants revenge. You know, I'm a former liberal. I got revenge in my tank. Okay, the Lord said the revenge belongs to him, but I still want to be in the car. I just want to be riding when he's doing it. So I'm trying to lay out a plan for us to get some revenge and some money. We need a blueprint, a strategy. So we got a strategy that you've been leading, you know, close the border and deport. Close the border and deport. Even the Democrats are on our side on that, right? You see a lot of Black Democrats that are on our side. They didn't vote for Trump, but they still keep posting those memes saying call ICE. Call ICE. And they're just saying they're ready to start calling ICE as soon as Trump gets in. It is hilarious. Okay, so we can get on the same page. I think the majority of us can get on the same page with the close the border and deport. But then what do? We have to be an ally to Trump, because he's going to come under nonstop fire for everybody that gets deported. You already know what it's going to look like. We're going to know the whole story about Miss XYZ and how she came here as a 4-year-old. So we, one, that ain't got nothing to do with us. We got to stay in our own lane. Number two, we are going to have to be his buffer. If we can give him the language to say, no, I'm prioritizing Black people who built this country, who have already been here, who've been at the back of the line, I'm pulling them to the front of the line. So you got to go home while we fix this situation. That needs to be our strategy. We standing side by side with him, and we're going to be saying, oh, you need us to work in ICE? You need us, because it's a whole industry to deport people. It ain't everybody that's just knocking on doors and trying to drag somebody out. They got paperwork, processing, everything. Those are jobs. We need to be filling this whole deportation industry, and we need to be telling him, President Trump, They're telling you the reason that we need to import all of these people is because of like mainly agriculture. We hear that again and again and again. It makes no sense. But when Black people say we are ready to sit here and take over the agriculture industry, they have warehouses. We got Black people that we are ready to take those jobs in those warehouses, in those processing, in those meat packing plants. We are ready. He said he wants to solve homelessness, which is weird. But Trump said he wants to solve homelessness. And I'm like, look, you can't tell me homeless people can't pick tomatoes. So we need to be coming to him with solutions that we benefit from those solutions. The agriculture industry used to be run, at least at the bottom level, we know it was run by Black people. Slaves were in charge of agriculture. So we need to be in charge of agriculture and telling him, we are your ally. This is trillions of dollars that flow through agriculture. That we need to be standing in line with our bucket when that spigot gets turned on so he can have an ally, because he's going to come under all kinds of attack. We already know we're going to benefit from the education industry because we're going to be owning our own schools. But agriculture is something else that it needs to start looking like us again. Make agriculture Black again.
Amen. Well, it's not just that. See, that's only part of it. What our people fail to understand is that this is happening all the way up and through the executive branch of the public and private sectors and in politics. That's what y'all fail to understand. They got you distracted like you're in your only competition are the folks in the agriculture industry. That's a lie.
No, you're
I've
right.
already shared with you guys about how they replaced us with immigrants over at the Wells Fargo Bank. You be hard pressed to go into any Wells Fargo bank and see a Negro, a descendant of the emancipated, working out here in California. So y'all have got to be super vigilant, because you've got Indians and Asians making more than white folks, and we are on the very bottom. We are on the very, very bottom with the least median income in this country, where out here in California, the median home price for a home is about $1 million.
Oh, wow.
So we have been priced out of here, and that's why you see so many leaving. That they can't afford to stay, because they can't afford any part of the American dream on the heels of mortgage-backed securities, adjustable rate mortgages sponsored by Barack Obama, who chose to bail out Main Street and Wall Street and the banks. He bailed out Wall Street and the banks over Main Street, where we lost over half of us who lost homes were us. Over 50% of our lineage lost the only real asset they had to bequeath their children, their homes.
And that's what I keep saying. We're starting all over again. We're starting out with housing. We're starting all over again with education. We're starting all over again that we don't even have the agriculture industry. We don't even have men that know the trades. In some ways, we may be worse off than in 1865, because we still had intact families back then. So,
well, we got the war on drugs and poverty to thank for why our strongest Black men have been removed. You know, many of which are doing slave labor in the private prison industrial complex funded by the federal government. We just lost on a bill out here. It was voted down to end slavery in the private prisons. I think it's per the 13th Amendment, that if you're incarcerated, you still can be enslaved. California, the most liberal state in the country, voted down slavery in the private prisons. So that means that can continue. And when that continues and the incarcerated get out of jail, they can't go to these same fire departments where they were putting out fires for 70 cents a day and get employment, while they're allowing illegals to vote, and they have entered into the country illegally, and they're getting access to the American life above Americans, whether they've served time in jail or whether they served on the front lines of these wars we fought all over the world to dominate These are the ones that are left out. Single mothers who can barely afford to manage their own children. That brings me to this. I want to go back and address something I flashed, I think, about Michael addressing about private schools and the cost involved. I want to stress that Lisa is not speaking about private schools. She's speaking about us going into our communities, taking over these vacant churches and making our own schools akin to what we once did with the resources that Trump is going to take from the Federal Department of Education that has failed our children and put directly in the hands of the parents and those institutions that where we are the teachers. Because when I was growing up, I predominantly had Black teachers. And so therefore, I had people that loved me, like a second mom and dad. I had people who cared about my welfare. Even my daughter sees the difference between the PWI she once attended and the HBCU she attends now. There's a certain level of care when it's your own people who are rooting for you, who are lifting you up when you're feeling like you can't go on. That's the village we come from. And so Lisa is speaking to that, Michael, and to the viewing audience.
I'm speaking of both. I'm speaking of both.
Okay, both is cool, but you're not speaking exclusively about private schools.
Right. So if you got the voucher and you want to go to St. Michael's Catholic School, you can go to St. Michael's Catholic School. But the power, the gas in the tank is that we have the capacity to pool the vouchers. People, you know, Black families are now the fastest growing in the homeschool movement. Who would have thought that 20 years ago or even 10 years ago? Black people are going all in on homeschooling. Well, some states are going to give you a voucher to homeschool your own kids. So you'll be able to pick your curriculum. And they also pool their money and start homeschool co-ops where the parents sort of rotate and they share the responsibility. This is back to that village. So the thing that Michael really needs to sort of dig into is whether we do it or not, everybody else is going to do it.
Well, please speak on that. Could you expound on how you shared just a little bit with a Latino woman and she ran back and shared with her community about it, and then speak on the Asian school that you just shared with me about as we were getting set up to go live? Could you speak on how these immigrants are taking advantage of school choice in 35 states in the union?
Right. So my calling is school choice, not Black school choice, Asian school choice in general. I want to see everybody's children get out of a failing school. I mean, who doesn't have a heart for any 5-year-old? If I see a 5-year-old, I don't want to see anybody's children get abused. Or this is abuse if you're not teaching somebody how to read and write, because you are condemning them to a certain status in life. But it logically made sense to me when I started moving in this circle. Wow, Black people, this might really help us. Let me sit down and really zero in and focus in on how this could be something unique and special for the Black community, because we are hurting the most in the failing government schools. So in general, I speak to different groups. I was speaking to a Latino lady that I was going to interview about school choice. I talked to her about it, and she now is going to all the Hispanic churches, and she's going to talk to them about building Hispanic schools. So if Black people say, we are not leaving, this model that you're talking about isn't perfect, that's what they're basically telling me. It's not perfect. Well, they're fine with an imperfect model. They're fine with it. Hispanics are now going to start building their own schools using government money. We paid for it for 400 years, but they're going to start, that money is flowing. So white evangelicals, remember I said Black people have 85,000 churches sitting empty. Guess what? There's 330,000 churches in America. They're not all Black. So that leaves about 245,000 churches that are primarily white. they're going to start activating. They're already moving. How do you think we got 35 states to pass school choice legislation? You think that was Black people passing all that legislation? The majority of it has happened since COVID. It has been a firestorm going across this country with parents screaming at their legislature saying, why are my schools closed? Why are they trying to force my child to wear a mask all day? Why are they telling me I can't come and into the schools? Why are they saying that they're reading these pornographic books to our kids? These legislators have been responding to their constituents. This money is now going to be flowing. We can sit out like we do all the time and get nothing. It doesn't mean that other people aren't going to be building their own schools. So I'm going to keep talking to everybody. I'm going to pray that the Black community responds and stops saying that we have to have perfection before we do anything. When you see a whole bunch of schools open up in your community and you're not getting the benefit of it, stop complaining. I am from Kansas. Wichita, Kansas is the largest city in our state. In the last 2 years, 6 public schools have closed. How did they close 6 public schools? Because they built 34 micro schools. That's how they did it. And the government has no power. There's nothing they can do about it. They can't force you to go to the public schools. Not in our state, because now we have school choice. So people are taking those vouchers and they're pooling those resources and they're starting their own movements. It wasn't because of me. I'm not even in that city. I just happened to be in an event where a person from Wichita started saying, yes, we closed 6 public schools. What? Yes, that's what's going to happen. So if you want the failing schools to become the all Black schools, okay, but don't complain. When I say that a new Chinese Christian school just opened up in Kansas. Oh, wow. And that's what we're going to see. We're going to see people benefiting. And then we're going to wait 10, 20 years and say we didn't get our share.
And I also want to stress what happened to our children specifically during the pandemic.
Right.
Epic setback and failure. You're talking about one of the poorest groups forced indoors, where parents still had to go to work and the young people could not manage their classes online because they even my own daughter did poorly during the pandemic. Kids need the socialization. They need to get up out of their chairs and change classrooms. We left these children to their own devices on a computer, and especially in homes where they didn't really have Wi-Fi or a good connection. You see, I'm struggling. I pay the most for mine over here. And then you had children who had to raise the younger ones while the parents were off working. They could not, the truancy rates went through the roof. They couldn't focus. They didn't have the same attention span as they would if they were in the classrooms. And this is why the Department of Education must fall. Give us those resources to do as Lisa suggested. Find our own schools that serve our children's highest needs. Build our own schools.
Right.
Homeschool our children where they're not dealing with being left behind. And if we don't do something, this is what I'm trying to get us up off of. Stop all this reactive nonsense and take what I'm sharing with you through my guests and through my post and the other videos that I've got in my library and get active in your own communities. If you want to learn how to advocate and things of this nature and be on these commissions, because that's what needs to happen. You want to know where your reparations is? It's at all of these commissions locally, in your cities, in your states, in your counties. There are commissions, and we are not at the table. And those folks are giving our reparations 40 going north to people they know for a piece of the action, while none of it's coming to impact us. That's where your reparations is at. So if you want to learn how to be a commissioner, you want to email me at therepperspect@gmail.com. If you like to see more of this content, bless the channel. Bless the channel at Cash App $TRPTV. and it's in the description bar below the actual live. So you can find it there as well. But yes, do know that when it's federal, we're impacted in ways that other folks, like Lisa was saying, they're not impacted. Their private schools kept going, especially in purple and red states. They didn't miss a beat. I'm talking here in the state of California, even Orange County was still out doing the damn thing. They didn't give a damn what Newsom was on and what LA County was on. They could care less because Orange County, I sit in the middle between LA and Orange County. They're mostly red. That's more red. We're the more, LA County is blue, Orange County is red. And they were not listening to Newsom, and they suffered no consequences nor repercussions. Another thing that was happening.
Did Orange County keep their schools open?
Huh?
Did Orange County keep their schools open?
Well, I know the privately they did, and their businesses stayed open. I don't know about the public part. I haven't researched that. Okay. But I'm saying they marched to the beat of their own drum, and nobody did a thing to them. Mm-hmm. Another thing you have to understand is that the federal government was mandating, back to what Lisa said, the abjay. Mm-hmm. I'm speaking a little pig Latin, but you understand what I'm saying, because they shut my channel down. Everybody else can speak on this, but let the reparationists speak on it. They strike my channel, and all manner of nonsense screw tube is on. They've already got me shadow banned, so please like, share, subscribe, turn on your notifications, and bless the channel. Mm-hmm. Anywho, because this when you're dealing with government, this is why the Reds want less government intervention. Because what were they able to mandate? That you abjay or lose your job. Right. You could lose your job if you did not do it, but you can't sue us. Right. Nor can you sue the pharmaceutical companies. Right. If you get vaccine injured or if you die. Okay? So please understand that this is what happens when government gets involved. They can literally tell you your medical history be damned. They can give you a mandate or you lose everything as a result. So I'm not going to touch on that too much because they've already messed with my channel for even broaching this subject. They're still fooling with me in that way. But go ahead, Lisa. Did you have something you want to interject?
Yes, I do. I wanted to give us a historical example. Okay. So I want to go back to the end of the Civil War in Washington, D.C. Again, we have the model. We have models that we can walk in the footsteps of our ancestors. Washington, D.C. had 4 high schools. Obviously, the population wasn't as big. 3 of the high schools were white and only 1 was black. The black high school was called Dunbar High School. Dunbar High School, from the years 1870 to 1955, that's 85 years, that high school equaled or exceeded the test scores of the other 3 white high schools. So how are you telling me that from 1870 to 1955, the height of Jim Crow, the height of racial division in America, segregation, the black high school exceeded or met the same level as the 3 white high schools? So if we could do that then, why can't we do it now? Why are we so invested in, oh yeah, but they don't take special needs? Well, why don't black people build a school and take special needs? I just told you they're giving you the funding.
Well, so that's what we must do, and that is a directive, family. I don't bring Lisa on and these illustrious guests on for all the other groups to visit this channel and take what she's had to share and run with it. This is for us to run with it. So we must run with it. Yeah. I'm just trying to get through a few of the comments. We're at 2:44. I didn't mean to keep you past an hour.
I'm fine. I apologize. We have to get this in our heads. We have got to build our own economic system where we can interweave our money. So how can I bounce money if I don't have anywhere to bounce the money? People are willing to bounce money. Now, here's the funny part. This ain't even our money. We would be getting the money. So why are people complaining when I'm telling you, if I gave you some money, $5,000, and I said, here, go pick a school for your child, and you sit here and argue with me? Nobody else is arguing. The lady coming from Africa, she's not arguing if somebody offers her a $5,000 voucher. She's not going to say, well, what about the other people? That's all I get from Black people. What about that? And what about that? What does she say? It's all about me. It's all about mine. I'm coming here to get mine. She didn't pay for it. She didn't build it. She didn't pay taxes on it, but she's still coming to get it. And I'm trying to give Black people some money, and they want to stand around and worry away $10,000. Worry about your own child, sir. You take your $5,000 and you worry about Bobby Jr. and you get Bobby Jr. the best education that he can get. Okay, that's your number one job. The Lord gave that child to you. You need to be trying to make sure that child learns how to read and write. And if the other parent doesn't do what they're supposed to do, pray for them, but you need to keep it moving. Black people need to get in our own lane, say we're going to build our own schools. The government is giving us the money to build our own schools. We're going to start bouncing that money, and that's what we're going to do.
I love it, sis. Well, I've been trying to flash as many comments as I can and touch on a little bit of them. But we are over time, child. Listen, it is so rich. It is so much, and it's so epic.
We'll be back.
We definitely have to have you back.
We'll be back. Now, I'm going to the inauguration. So I'm going to be there trying to have some meetings with some people to see if we can get this to be more of a national conversation, more of a national understanding. We know our number one issue is close the border and deport. Our second issue needs to be school choice, because it's funding to build Black-owned schools. Even if you don't build Black-owned schools, you still can take your child out of a failing school and go find a private school that will work for you. Number 3, we're going to talk about building those trade schools. Like Trump needs to build trade schools. Now, you heard he's going to build the American Academy. Have you guys watched that? Did you learn about that?
No.
Oh, Trump released a statement that he's going to launch something called the American Academy. It's going to be an online school. When you graduate, you'll have the equivalent of an associate's degree.
Woo! Go Trump. Trumpy Trump.
Yes. So he's trying to go and going to teach things that people need to know, okay, and not this anti-Americanism. So we got another tool on the buffet, but we got to get the K through 12 going. So my focus is going to be taking what Dr. Claude Anderson said. We also have Dr. George Fraser. I've been just getting into them, weaving it into the education economy, because they can tell us, go and build something, but we don't really have an architect. We got to have an architect. What does it look like? How do we bounce this money? So I'm trying to build this framework. And 40 acres and a mule is going to become private school. Is our 40 acres and a mule. You're going to own the school. These are $500,000, $1 million businesses that we can be starting. Right? Does that make sense? If you own the school and you get the $5,000 vouchers from the 100 students, you got $500,000 a year in your business. The average Black-owned business isn't making $500,000 a year. So we got a way for us to start launching businesses that are going to work for us. So school choice is already passed in 35 states. The money is already flowing. Other groups are going to start building the schools. We just got to get in and start getting some of that money. So, and I'm pretty sure in the new year, at the latest, I'm going to get back on your show. I'm going to give you an update from the inauguration. I'll probably, you know what? I can get on with you during the inauguration. I'll get on.
Yes, family, that would be rich, because I don't think I can make the inauguration. My daughter turns 21 next year, and I want to be able to take her someplace special out of the country to celebrate. So it's a budgetary thing. And my sister is turning 60. She's got a big birthday bash going next year. So that money is tied up. But if we could go live with you.
I'll have with
From
you
the
doing
nation's
that
capital.
day. Yeah, I'll do that. Also, I co-authored a book.
Yes.
With Master P, the entrepreneur mogul, and the book is about building wealth. And I wrote a chapter on us building K through 12 schools. It's called Mastering Wealth, Purpose. And my book chapter is called The Purpose of Black-owned K through 12 education. I am going to send that to you. We'll tweet it out a little bit.
I'm doing it right now in the chat. The purpose of
the purpose of Black-owned K through 12 education is already released on Amazon. I think it just came out in the last day or two on Amazon. And I'm writing. It's just
Who's it by?
Me. I wrote a chapter.
Oh, you wrote it.
It's Master P's book. He's been publishing some anthologies. So he's coming together with a lot of different minds for people to write a chapter in these books. And they're about building wealth. So he's all about building wealth. You know, I wasn't that familiar with Master P. I didn't really listen to his music. And I went to a conference where he was one of the speakers, and I was just blown away about his entrepreneurial spirit and how he's now all about building Black-owned businesses. So I am like, you know what? We got to build our own schools. That's where we're going to get the most bang for our buck. So it's a little brief outline of what I talked about today. And I'm going to write my own full-page book. I'm just going to have to write our own book. I'm going to piggyback off of what I learned from Dr. Claude and what we learned from Dr. George and how we can apply those principles to building our own school network. So
one last thing before I let you go. Oh, Lord, these comments are going fast. The Rock, why are you bothering Chuck Wu? Talking about he's going to be deported soon. You hope he gets his bags packed.
Okay.
The Rock, if he's a citizen, he's not going to be deported. Okay, so stop all that. Stop selling wolf tickets. Not everybody will be deported, y'all. And what we need to do is continue as we've begun the contemporary grassroots reparations movement. Let's just be on our square and let Trump and Holman handle the rest when it comes to this deportation stuff, okay? Because yes, that's what I voted for.
Okay, Anissa.
He says my mama is FBA. See, Rock, he's saying his mom, that means he's half of us. So listen, let me help y'all with something. I am not anti-immigrant. I am anti the government's weaponization of immigration against the descendants of the emancipated to our ethnocide. That's it. I love allies and Chuck Wu and Michael Penn. I don't care where they come from. We need allies. We welcome allies. So The Rock, don't slash everybody up in the chat, okay? Just
if you're here illegally, it's why it's a crime. Okay,
it's a crime.
Undocumented.
We have legal ways to get here, and you need to exercise those and do asylum in your own country. We're gonna
shut that one down too. I really advocate shutting that one down too. But in general, we're gonna start with illegal immigration. You're not undocumented citizen. So I tell people this: if you come into my house without permission, are you an undocumented guest? No, you're a burglar.
Are you an asylum seeker? Are you a refugee? No. You've broken the law.
Mackie Samuel says that her sister went to private school and was ignored.
Oh, sorry.
My sister went to private school from kindergarten to middle school. Now, that doesn't make any sense. If it wasn't working, it's a private system, then you can leave anytime you want. So that means your parents were getting more value out of keeping her in the private school than moving her out, because it's just like going to a restaurant. Private schools are like a restaurant. They don't force you to go in there, so you can leave anytime you want. Number one. Number two, I'm talking about us building our own schools. So who's going to ignore you? So
also Mackie was talking about, I had it up earlier till you told me the name of your book, then I jumped all the way down the comments. Mm-hmm. He's basically saying, why throw away the public schools with all that money poured into those public schools for private school education?
We got 82% illiteracy rate. So I'm not going to keep.
Therein lies the answer. Mackie, did you hear her? 82% illiteracy rate is why we have to throw away all that money wasted on the public school education system that has epically failed our children to line the pockets of the poverty pimps. Get
And
that
it's
through
by
your head.
design.
Poverty is big business in this country.
Right. It's
They're
by
fully
design.
invested in our failure because there is a thing called the preschool to prison pipeline.
Right.
And that's where the majority of us are. As they continue to lie to you, to tell you you're only 13% of the country since the 70s.
You only get one chance to do this particular thing. It's not like I started a job and I really hated it. I went and got another job. I only get one chance to go through this school system. And if I come out the other end broken, they don't let me go back to 4th grade and say, okay, you get a do-over. We got to try and get this right. Number one. Number two, as I already said, the other people are going to be leaving. They're going to be getting the benefit of the money. Why do we keep clinging to the thing? It works worse for us than anybody else, but we want to save it the most. We just are like a person that's still in love with their abusive spouse.
Well, it's called Stockholm Syndrome, and we are waking up from it, but the work is serious. It's intense. That's why I came back. I left because it literally made me sick to see what 2 years of being checked out for reparations that were never coming. It really cut me deep. I spent so much energy broadcasting the task force hearings, preparing my statements for the record, and I went through a lot. And then I started to see it from the very beginning when we started having to fight other Black people for lineage-based reparations, when they know full well out here in California, Ward Connerly got in bed with the Asians to do an Ed Bloom on us. They got rid of affirmative action out here, and our attendance and participation at the UCs plummeted as a result. So we knew that we couldn't fight for reparations on a race basis. Now, what is true of California, the Asians and Ed Bloom have done at large on a federal level. Affirmative action is done. Now the Asians are crying in their beer about, not being accepted at the rates they once were under affirmative action, as the legacy kids continue to get access to the Ivies in a way that none of us can now. So my thing is this, we've got to just really be on business and take advantage of this information and get involved.
Right. So Michael said the proposal for church facilities to become education centers have been proposed for 100 years. Why do you believe these types of programs will work now? One, so you're telling me that I don't drive by a Catholic school every day, no matter what street I drive down in my city. So church-based schools have been around for centuries in this country. White evangelicals, there's 35,000 private schools in America. Black people don't even own 1 or 2% of them. So you can't tell me, why do I think the programs will work? When did they not work? They've always worked. They've always had church-based schools. But you're telling me that they were proposed for Black people? That's never happened. When was there a proposal for Black people to have their own separate school system in our churches? Number one. Number two, the other people are going to do it. They're going to prove you wrong. And you're going to wait 20 years, then I'll be able to come to you and say, oh, now there's thousands of Hispanics. They seem to make it work in their churches. The Asians are making it work. The Jewish people are making it work. The Catholics are making it work. The white evangelicals are making it work. I have no doubt that Black Africans are going to come here and start opening up their own schools. We're going to be the ones sitting here, and then we're going to say, oh, I guess it does work.
Well, my comment is, we have got to stop being reactive and become proactive. I can't stress that enough. We have 4 years to get all of this done. And that's the way you need to think about it. Your foot needs to be on the gas, 100 going north with Trump, because he's unique. He's not a rhino Republican, and he's not a liberal progressive demon rat. He is for Americans first. And the last time I checked, as descendants of the emancipated, we at least fall under the umbrella of American. And while these other groups, let them stress over whether or not they'll be deported. It's not our monkey, not our circus. I don't want to hear not one of y'all go lame on me crying over children in cages when
Right.
you should be all cried out from your children being locked up in the social welfare system and in the private juvenile detention centers. Social services have failed our children. They just release them to their own devices once they term out at 18. And these are the children that are now missing in mass numbers of Black children missing in the sex slave trades and also in the organ harvesting. All of these things are happening to our missing children because we no longer have the nuclear Black family. I want you to come off them demon rat rolls. Every Black American Negro freedman descendant of the emancipated should be independent. I need you to register independent, and I need you to make the case with your friends and family of the same. And don't tell me how hard it is. Y'all know how hard I've been pushing, but I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. We're turning the Titanic away from our extinction. Right. I need all hands on deck to get it done. I need you to like, share, subscribe, turn on your notifications. And no matter how bitter a pill it is to swallow, you need to share, because I am shadow banned. Okay. With that being said,
I gotta address one more thing.
Oh, go ahead, sis.
Someone had a question that talked about we're gonna have to rebuild marriage and the family. Obviously, every Black person I know thinks that that's important. But what I'm saying is that's not going to happen in the government schools. They're not going to prioritize building Black family. They're not even prioritizing building American families anymore. A long time ago, when you were in school and you had that great trade program, I'm guaranteeing you probably had things that were pro-marriage. I knew people that went to school and they had a class called Marriage and Family. They didn't have that at my school, but some people did, and I was really jealous. They actually used to put on a wedding. You know, women are about weddings. So what I'm saying is, again, when we can pull ourselves out and make our own lane on the buffet, we can teach marriage. This is not something you're going to learn in 1 hour. This needs to be something that is talked about and that a culture is built around it. If we owned our own schools, you could talk about marriage all the time with people who are not seeing it. Marriage is a model. And you're not seeing the model in your own life. You have to sort of construct the model for children and talk about the best and the priorities that can come out of marriage and how you have to make these sacrifices, because everybody is mad. You know, the minute they get mad, they're leaving. So when you're talking about something and you again talk about the wealth, the marriage gap, they talk about the wealth gap, but we're not talking about the education achievement gap. We're not talking about the marriage gap. Those two things are the foundation of the wealth gap. If you have two people in a household both making 50 grand, that's not a lot of money, but two people is going to build faster than one person. If you had to dig a hole and they had two people with two shovels and you have one person with one shovel, it's only logical, it's only common sense that the person with two shovels is going to dig faster. And when one person is exhausted, they can say, you take a break and I'll keep digging. And when we talk about the mental health crisis in America, particularly in the Black community, we never really want to say the honest reason why is because single parent households are going to have so much more stress. You're stressed for when the baby is a baby and you're all by yourself. You're stressed when the kids start school. You're stressed when you have to go to work and deal with the school, and then the kids are getting sick. That's a little low-grade stress that's built up over decades of time that you're managing this by yourself. So why is it any shock that people are going to have mental health issues? Fixing the marriage thing will help fix the mental health issues. It'll help fix the education gap. It'll help fix the wealth gap. This one policy will make the biggest difference in our community, and we have to embrace it. But we have to do the work. So I feel like when the people are opposed to it, it's because they have the white man's ice is colder syndrome. You just want the white man to be doing it. That's why you have all of this pushback with me. I'm telling you, you're going to get the money. I'm telling you, we're going to talk about the trades. I'm telling you, we're going to deal with financial literacy. I'm telling you, we're going to deal with reading and math. I'm telling you, we're going to do the small business creation. We can do the group economics. We can talk about the relationships. We can talk about the mental health. We can address the obesity. And they still don't want to do it. That means the only reason you don't want to do it is because you don't want to do the work. You
Well,
want
that is part of it, but the other part is we need the blueprint. So that's what we need to have sidebar conversations. You guys, if you want to be a part of Lisa's movement for school choice, we're not going to give strategy here. This is what I was speaking with you about, Lisa, is that we need to build. We need to build, but we need to give a blueprint to those who are interested in building. Once again, if you're interested in building this school choice model that's broken down where we take back control of our children and give them a better shot than we had because the ball was dropped. I love this idea of incorporating how to be married and teaching. If you can teach LGBTQ and transgender to kindergartners, surely you can teach them home economics. You could teach our young people trade, because this is what we once did. Teach the young ladies how to be wives and mothers, and teach our sons how to be husbands and fathers. These should be classes, because a lot of us are just out here trying to figure it out. We don't understand love and marriage as business. It's business before it's the rest of it. And if you don't have your ducks in a row and don't know how to run a household, that's why you end up experiencing the highest rates of divorce. And we need to be pro-family, because that's what we come from.
Exactly.
That's what worked for me and Lisa. I had my mom and dad in the home. Okay, we still live down the street from the projects, but we had a house. We took advantage of the things that were being offered, the same way we need to be at Trump's table. And so that's what we need, Lisa. We need meeting with Trump's people on how to get reparations in these other forms. And we need for you to steer us in the right direction with a solid blueprint of how we can do this in our respective home cities.
Okay, and when we come back on Inauguration Day, I promise that I'm going to have a website up that's going to be able to help people walk through this blueprint. I said I'm willing to coach people through the blueprint. So if somebody wants to start a school, I'm going to give you the steps that it'll take to start a school. California, you guys are tough, but if you're in those 35 states, that's the majority of states that have passed legislation. I'm going to summarize what your state's legislation is and what it takes for you to get started in your state. We're going to talk about marketing a school, branding a school, how you make your school unique, how you're going to get the parents, what it's going to look like for you to build a school, what types of curriculum are going to work. We have so much information. Literally, it's 2024. You can look up anything 24 hours a day. But I will do coaching to help you launch your school. Certain states have gone all in. If you're in Florida, you're ready to go. We need to go through a couple of months worth of coaching, and you could get that. You can be up and running. Florida is so far ahead of everybody else. California, you guys are going to be dragging behind. But
well, I feel like we've lost a war in California. A lot of what I do is sound the alarm and to help save my people throughout the nation. It's a lost cause out here. I won't even expend energy. My energy is in making it because it'll give me a headache and I'll go off on these people. And so it's best that I just use my voice and my platform to help my people throughout the country, because I really don't know how much longer I've got in California personally. I'm just waiting for my daughter to graduate and get her on her big two spiritual financial feet, see where she decides to land to determine what to do with property and everything out here. But I already got a place in mind, and we'll talk more about that, because maybe you can really help me hone in on where to be.
I can give you some strategies. I'll talk to you about it offline.
Offline, absolutely. Well, guys, it's 3:09. We have gone hard in the paint for 2 hours and 10 minutes. We thank you so much, Lisa. I'm just so grateful to God that He placed you in my path in X, cutting up and getting the vote to swing. Thank you for your contribution to those efforts. Thank you for your time and your love for our people. I know that you are for other groups and all people getting fairness. But I have made it my mission to really speak to my people. So I thank you for the role you play in helping me help our people be able to flourish right now. so that we can stave off extinction. I greatly appreciate that. And like I said, I'm not anti-immigration. I am anti the government's weaponization of it against us with our own reparations to ethnocide us. I am abjectly opposed to that. And that's what my pushback and my protest is all about, to buy us some time to turn this Titanic around so that our lineage can flourish as compared to aborting. We need to be in the trenches, sleeves rolled up, to help save our collective.
And Angela, I saw that. Following you on Twitter, I could see through, some of the stuff is like a fire, but I could see through it. I don't know why. I literally was like, I'm following this lady. This lady is on it. I love these memes. I was like, who's she getting? Where's these memes coming from? They were so good. Your message really did reverberate. So even though I'm over here Trump MAGA, and somebody might think, well, she's not Trump MAGA, but I was like, but she's pro-Trump. But it wasn't the way that everybody else was. You were pro-Trump in your own unique way. I loved how you were going hard. And I was like, I know that she will understand this thing, that we have this capacity to build our own schools. She's going to understand it. That's why I was like, I'm gonna play tag team with her. Well, every day I would go and check on your account. If I went online, I'm like, let me go check on Angela's account and see what she's posting. Oh, like, retweet, send her a message.
But we retweet each other's stuff because you were helping me in the same way the late, great Shirley Huzar. Because, as far as I was concerned, both parties suck. I hate them both. But it was all about, how can I get my people some oxygen so they can continue to lean into the work as the grassroots. Because the grassroots is going to save the lineage. They're going to save the culture, because we are the hardest working people out here. I mean, day and night, our people are on our mind. And so I thank you for your patience.
We're going to have a revival. That's what it is. Black people, we're going to have a revival,
Yep. This is our Reconstruction 2.0. Yes. This is it. This is it. The time is now. We're going to come up with our own caucus. We need our own party. We need our own people running for office. Oh, yeah, it's going down in the next.
Well, remember, we're going to get a platform. Political parties have a platform. We're going to build our own platform.
Yes.
We're going to have like 5 issues. We take it to Trump and we say, you only got 4 years. We know you can't do 1,000 things. But if
that's a meeting I want to be at. You get in front of Trump's people. I might not be at the inauguration, but I'll scrape pennies together to get to a table where I can speak with his people to make our demands known. Okay. I'm excited about that possibility.
Okay.
With that being said, wait, give me 2 minutes. I'm closing out. You want to come say hi to the audience? Oh, my gorgeous daughter doesn't want to come on camera. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us, because, family, you are the face of God. Yes, you are the voice of God. You are the body temple of the Spirit of the living God. Until we meet again next Saturday with my guest, Arthur Ward from Chicago, I want you to make it a beautiful, God-inspired rest of your holiday weekend and work week ahead. Peace, family. Stay tuned for the outro. Thank you, Lisa. We'll be in touch, okay? Thank you so much. We love you over here at the Reparations Perspective. Thank you. Hold on, Lisa.